girlfriend prioritized her friend Alex over me with her grandparents, so I'm questioning our relationship's future and my next steps. I'm a 22-year-old guy, and my girlfriend, also 22, and I have been together for nearly 2 years now. We first met during Freshers Week at university, and, as luck would have it, we discovered we were both studying the same course. Things between us have always been smooth, we hardly ever argue, and our relationship felt solid. The only issue that's ever gotten between us is her boy best friend, Alex, who is 23. Alex has been in her life longer than I have. They've known each other for about 4 years, having gone to high school together. At the beginning, I genuinely didn't mind Alex. He was just another friend, until he started making comments about my appearance and my accent. To give you an idea, I'm not a bad-looking guy, 5 feet 10 inches, pretty decent build. I've been seriously working out for over 6 months now, and my facial features are good. Still, Alex manages to find things. He comments on the shape of my eyebrows, how my longer hair sometimes gets messy or tangled, and especially my accent. I'm Slavic, so English isn't my first language, and my accent is still pretty noticeable. Alex's teasing used to roll off me, especially because my girlfriend usually defended me and called Alex out on his BS, but sometimes, when he mocked my accent, she'd laugh along. This really gets to me. When I first moved here, combining into the language and culture was hard. I struggled for months just to pass my IELTS, fought hard to fit in, and when she laughs along at Alex's jokes, it reminds me of how hard it's been. I've spoken to her about this and she'll apologize, but then it happens again. Then there was this weekend, the one that's left me completely thrown. My girlfriend invited me to her grandparents' house. It was a big deal. Her grandparents played a huge role in raising her, and this was my first time meeting them. We arrived, and her grandmother greeted me at the door with a warm hug, but then she said, "Alex, we've heard all about you." I figured it had to be a simple mistake, maybe an age thing or just muddled memory, so I gently corrected her and told her my name. She frowned, shook her head, and seemed certain it wasn't right. Dinner turned out to be pretty awkward. Both her grandparents addressed me as Alex over and over. My girlfriend kept correcting them, but they always looked confused. After dinner, I asked her why they were confusing me with Alex even after we'd told them my name. She snapped, telling me they're old and have memory issues, and seemed really offended by my question. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to be rude, I just wanted to know why it kept happening. She brushed it off, and we moved on, spending the rest of the evening watching her grandparents' favorite movies. Later, as I was setting up the bed in the spare room for us, I overheard my girlfriend and her grandmother talking in hushed voices. My girlfriend was talking about Alex, and her grandmother kept asking why they hadn't brought Alex like she said she would. My girlfriend mumbled something about him being busy and having to bring me instead. That stopped me cold. I thought this weekend had always been planned for us, but it sounded like Alex was initially supposed to come. Her grandmother asked again how Alex was, when she'd get to see him. Everything suddenly felt off. When we finally went to bed, I asked my girlfriend about it. She insisted again that her grandmother is just forgetful and that I was reading too much into it. I asked her straight, had she planned to bring Alex here? If so, I would have been fine if she'd just told me. She blew up, telling me I didn't understand her friendship with Alex, called me a few petty names, and told me to sleep on the pull-out couch. I gave in, but lay awake all night, replaying everything in my head. Since we got back, she's been distant, angry, and nothing I do or say seems to reach her. She started calling Alex more than ever and refuses to tell me why she's so upset. I'm honestly lost. I didn't insult her or her family. Her refusal to communicate and her sudden turn in behavior makes me genuinely worry about our relationship. I've thought more than once about ending things, but I can't tell if breaking up with her would make me the asshole here. I just need some advice, because I don't recognize how we've ended up here. Update 1. I'm sitting in my car right now, and honestly, what just happened left me completely baffled. Let me rewind just a bit. A day ago, I'd gone to meet my girlfriend's grandparents for the first time. Exciting, right? Except, they kept calling me Alex. That's her boy best friend's name. When I brought it up to my girlfriend later, she got defensive. Ever since, she pretty much refused to speak to me. Then, out of nowhere, she got off work early today and actually messaged me first for the first time in days, asking if I could pick her up. Since she works at a bakery, I went and waited for her in the customer section. The air was tense. I could feel some of her coworkers giving me dirty looks, but I just ignored them, trying not to let it bother me. When she finally got off her shift, she was quiet, almost huffy as she got into my car. But then she asked if I could drive her to Alex's place because he and a few friends were having a small gathering there. That really irritated me. So, right then, I said we needed to talk. I asked if she wanted to go to my place to do it privately, but she told me to just say whatever I had to say, right there and then. So I did. I laid it all out, how her behavior over the last few days was totally unacceptable, how she'd shut me out instead of just clearing things up, how she exploded on me for what seemed like simple questions. And that's where things started getting weird. She told me that her grandparents had actually been waiting to meet Alex, which is why they got our names mixed up. That was really different from the excuse she'd given me earlier about not remembering. I asked her outright why she hadn't just told me that from the beginning. She insisted I just wouldn't understand, especially when it came to her relationship with Alex. I was honest. I told her I really don't understand it at all. I don't get how she lets Alex insult me all the time or why she always jumps to defend him. She said people here just joke around and make fun of each other, and apparently, I wouldn't understand because my culture is different. What? That just blew my mind. I let her know, regardless of culture, I wouldn't put up with being disrespected by her so-called friend and that the lying was making it hard to trust her at all. I told her I'd never given her a reason to lie. Suddenly, she started crying and swearing up and down that nothing was going on between her and Alex. That blindsided me, because I hadn't even implied otherwise. When I asked why she said that, she totally broke down. That's when she admitted that Alex had been pressuring her for months to leave me, saying she deserved better. I was just done at that point. I don't need this drama in my life. I told her to get out of my car, that we were done. She cried harder, begged me not to leave, promised she'd cut Alex out of her life, insisted their relationship was only friendship, but at that point, I just didn't care anymore. I wanted no part of this craziness. Somehow, I wasn't even sad about ending things. In fact, I felt numb. Suddenly, her attitude shifted. She actually hit my arm and started yelling that I didn't understand, and that Alex had been right all along and she should have left me sooner. I just told her again to get out. She slammed the car door and stormed off, still crying. Now my phone keeps blowing up with her apologies and promises that we can work things out. At the same time, I'm getting texts from mutual friends wondering what the hell happened because she's now telling them that I'm controlling and toxic. Why would she want to get back together if she's telling our friends something so different? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and just started writing this down. Eventually, I explained everything to our friends. I even shared the messages my ex was sending me. Turns out, they always thought her relationship with Alex was a bit weird too. They were all pissed that she tried to fool them. So far, none of my friends have taken her side. In fact, they've apologized for the drama and said they'll be keeping their distance from her. A few people from our large group who didn't reach out have blocked me on social media, but honestly, I see that as the trash taking itself out. Right now, I feel pretty good. I've just been hanging out with my cats and treated myself to some good takeout. My roommate gets back from his parents' place tomorrow, so I'm planning to fill him in and have him there when my ex comes to collect her stuff. I texted her, telling her to only contact me about picking up her things, then muted her messages and calls. I'll only check again when it's time for her to collect her things, and after that, I'm blocking her for good. Honestly, I'm completely confident in my decision. Update 2. Today was supposed to just be her collecting her things. I boxed everything up last night, hoodies, the mug she kept at mine, the plant she forgot to water for weeks until I started doing it. My roommate was home like we planned. I made coffee to keep my hands busy and waited for the message. She showed up 20 minutes early anyway. I saw her through the window buzzing the door with her sleeve over her hand like she was freezing, hair pulled back, sunglasses even though it was gray out. Alex was in the passenger seat of her car, reclined, phone up like he was filming the ceiling. I didn't go down. I buzzed her in and opened our flat door just enough that she had to come in alone. She tried to smile like this was normal and went straight for the boxes. It was tense but quiet until she picked up a t-shirt that was not hers and said she'd forgotten she must have left it. It was my roommate's. He stepped out of the kitchen and said he'd be keeping his own clothes. Thanks. She went pink, muttered, and kept packing. She kept glancing at my face like she wanted to read something there. Can we talk? She asked. I told her we already did. She said she meant properly. I told her I didn't have anything new to say. The tears were right there. I could see them balance in her eyes and then disappear when the front buzzer went again and Alex's voice came through the speaker, muffled and impatient, saying he was coming up to help. I said no. He came up anyway and tried to shoulder his way past me with a grin like we were mates. It vanished when he realized I wasn't moving. He did that little scoff laugh he always does and said he didn't have time for games. My roommate stepped forward and told him to wait in the hall or we'd call security. Alex squared up like he was going to make a thing out of it, then decided a hallway standoff wasn't worth it, rolled his eyes and wandered back toward the lift, muttering something about my accent under his breath. I heard it. He made sure I did. She filled 2 bags, left the rest for another time. I told her there wouldn't be another time. She could take everything now or I'd drop it at her parents and that was the last I'd be doing. She stood there for a full minute, hugging the tote to her chest, then nodded. Outside our building she turned, wringing the straps in her hands. They were supposed to meet him, she said, like it hurt to say even that much. She was talking about her grandparents. I know, I said. I heard. She bit her lip, looked past me toward the street where Alex was leaning against her car filming a TikTok or himself or the sky. I didn't want to, she started, and then Alex whistled, loud, 2 fingers in his mouth like he was calling a dog. The look she gave him belonged to a different life than the one she had with me. She got in the car and they drove off without him saying a word to me. 10 minutes later I got a message from a number I didn't have saved. No name, just, hey, I'm not trying to start anything, but I think you should see this. It was a screen recording of a private Snapchat story. Not mine. The username was Alex's full name with 2 9s at the end. The first clip was them in a bright little kitchen. She was sitting on a counter in a hoodie I recognized as mine and he was between her knees, his hands on her waist, both of them laughing about nothing. The camera bouncing as he pretended to zoom in on a tea towel with a cartoon hen that said excellent cook. Her voice was in it, "Don't post this, my nan will kill me," and his, "Nan loves me," and he posted it anyway. The second clip was outside, at dusk, with those cheap little solar garden lights and that exact gravel that crunched when I walked to the car at her grandparents' place. He did a slow pan of their porch. It ended on the doormat I'd wiped my shoes on 2 days ago. Same pattern, same everything. Date in the corner, May. The caption on that one was, "Family Night." I stared at my phone for a long time. I could hear my roommate riffling through the remaining box, pulling his shirt back out, saying something about people who think everything belongs to them. I messaged back and asked who she was. She said she was Alex's ex. Ex as of today. She'd seen my post through mutuals and realized I had no idea because he kept those stories private. She said there was more, but I didn't need it unless I wanted it. I didn't ask for more. It was enough. It made my head go very quiet and then weirdly clear, like when you've been underwater holding your breath and you finally break the surface. She followed with, "I'm sorry, none of this is on you." I thanked her. That was it. I thought that was the end of the day until I got a knock I thought was her forgetting something and opened the door to an older woman I recognized immediately by the way. Her cardigan sat off one shoulder. Her grandmother. She'd taken the bus from their town to ours with a tin of shortbread in her bag and a folded piece of paper with my name written on it in looping pen. She said she'd found my address on the card her granddaughter wrote to them last Christmas because she never throws anything away. She said she only wanted 5 minutes. She was smaller without the house around her. She stood in our hallway and told me she was sorry for getting my name wrong, and that she is old, yes, but not so old she doesn't notice when people let her believe what's easiest for them. She said she'd been told for months that Alex was the boyfriend and that I was a lad from uni who helps with coursework, and that she went along with it because she was too tired to argue and she wanted peace at her table. She said that wasn't fair to me. That stunned me more than any DM. She said they liked me, from what they saw. "You ate your vegetables," she said, smiling like a little girl. "He never does." Then, very softly, she said, "I don't know what the truth is between the three of you, I'm not asking. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for my part in making you feel small in my home." My throat hurt. I told her I appreciated her coming all this way, that she didn't owe me that, and asked if she wanted tea. She said she couldn't stay. She pressed the tin into my hands and a 10-pound note she called for your petrol that we used up dragging you around the countryside. I tried to give it back. She wouldn't take it. She patted my arm and told me to put the biscuits in a tin so they don't go soft. After she left, I checked my phone and saw 3 missed calls from my ex and one from a number I didn't know. I ignored all of them. My roommate and I opened the shortbread and ate one each and stared at the wall like it might move. Half an hour later my building's front camera pinged again. This time it was Alex, alone, hood up, hands in his pockets, pacing, buzzing every flat like he was playing a game. My roommate went down with his phone in his hand on record. He asked Alex what he wanted. Alex said he wanted to clear the air, man to man, and that I owed him a conversation. My roommate told him to leave, that the only thing owed was space. Alex walked up so close to the camera his nose pressed against the casing and said my name wrong on purpose in a sing-song. He started in on the accent again, louder, sloppier, like he was trying to make himself drunker by talking. Then he swore at my roommate and kicked the door. The camera caught everything, his face, the kick, the timestamp. We told him once that we'd call the police if he didn't go. He went. I muted my phone. When I finally checked again late tonight there was a single message from my ex, not paragraphs, just, "I'm so sorry for what I did. I was scared to disappoint them." He made it easy not to. "I don't deserve any more words from you." I put my phone face down and took the shortbread tin into my room. My cats tried to stick their paws in when I opened it. I've never felt more done and more calm at the same time. I meant it when I told her there wouldn't be another time. I mean it even more now. Update 3. I thought the day after would be quiet. It wasn't. Our building manager knocked at 9 with his high-vis still on and the smell of rain clinging to him. He'd pulled the footage already. We watched Alex's face fill the screen in the little office off the lobby, nose flattened against the camera like a kid's. The kick. The timestamp. The buzzer spam. The manager asked if I wanted it logged. I said yes. He emailed me the clip and said words like incident number and tenancy breach in a steady voice like he was reading a weather report. An hour later a constable called and took a statement. She said they could do a welfare visit and a warning. I said that sounded like enough. She asked if I felt safe. I said I do. She told me to keep the clip and to lock my door. I said I already do. Just after, I put the last box in my boot. I'd promised myself no more drop-ins. I drove anyway to her parents' house because I didn't want those things in mine. Her mom opened the door with an apron on and flour on her wrist like she'd leaned on the counter. She said my name softly and then took a proper breath and said, "You'd better come in." I didn't. I put the boxes down on the step. She looked past me like she was expecting someone taller. Her dad stood a few steps back in socks on the wood floor, hands in his pockets like he wasn't sure what to do with them. Her mum started with "she's not herself" and moved into "she's always been so loyal if she thinks someone needs her" and stopped when her husband said her name in that careful voice that means enough. I told them I didn't come for a conversation. Her dad nodded once and asked if he could get me a cuppa anyway, like he couldn't help himself. I said no, thank you. Her mom said, we didn't know, and then, smaller, we told her to be kind. I said nothing. A car pulled up and idled behind me. Alex's. He stayed inside and checked his hair in the mirror like it was an interview. I got back in my car and left before he decided to be brave. At midday, a woman with a little heart next to her name on Instagram messaged me a photo of a corkboard. The bakery Rota. My ex's name scratched out with different pens, other names squeezed in. Underneath, please do not swap shifts without permission. She wrote, I'm sorry for the way we looked at you that day. We heard one story, we've now heard as many as there are people. She said the manager saw the video of the door through a mutual and told Alex he was banned from waiting outside the shop. I thanked her and put my phone face down. The £10 note kept winking at me from the tin on my desk like a dare. I didn't like having it. I took the bus out to her grandparents because I didn't want to take my car back down their road. The cottage looked exactly the same and completely different. Her nan answered in a cardigan I recognized and a lipstick I didn't. She smiled like we were neighbors. She asked if I'd eat a sandwich. I said no, thank you. I held the tin out and the money and said I can't keep this. She pushed the tin back and took the note and then tucked it inside the cardigan sleeve like she was hiding it from a magpie. Her granddad called from the other room that the cricket was rubbish today and then saw me and went very still and then nodded like I was the postman. We stood in the hallway with the faint smell of onions from lunch in the air and a clock that clicked too loud between us. She said, we changed the locks yesterday. I blinked. She said it like someone telling you they'd finally moved a chair that was always in the way. He had a key, she said. Not anymore. Her granddad's mouth tightened and he said, we gave out too many keys in that house. Then the door behind me opened without a knock and Alex walked straight into the echo of his own name. He stopped when he saw me. His eyes went bright and empty at the same time. He smiled like the grin could press me flat. Look who it is, he said, as if he'd caught me stealing a biscuit. Her nan said his name once in a voice I hadn't heard from her before, a voice you use when you catch a child about to touch something hot. He lifted a hand in a half wave like we were all at a barbecue. He asked if his girl was there. No one answered. Her granddad stood up from the armchair like getting up was a ceremony. He reached into a drawer next to the chair and took out a little bowl with keys in it. He set it on the sideboard. He didn't touch any of them. He said, key. Alex did that scoff laugh and said, you're joking. Her granddad didn't blink. Key, he said again. Alex looked at me like I was the one making him do it. He pulled a ring out of his pocket, slid a single key off, and set it down with an overdone clatter like he was on a stage. Her nan said, thank you, love, and he opened his mouth to say something clever. Nothing came. He flicked his eyes to me and back to them and then he left with his shoulders up around his ears, like the air had gotten cold. The house let out a long breath after. Her granddad picked the key up between thumb and forefinger like it was something unpleasant from the garden. He put it in his pocket. No speeches. No victory lap. Her nan looked suddenly very tired and then fine again and asked me if I'd please take a jar of chutney because she made too many last summer. She pressed it into my hands and said, we are going to stop making it easy for him. Then she added, for anyone. It didn't feel like a line rehearsed for effect. It felt like someone standing up from a chair they'd used for too long because it was there. On the bus back my phone buzzed with an unknown number and I let it go to voicemail. The message was my ex. No crying, no rose of apology. Just her voice in an empty room. She said she'd handed in her key to her grandparents and that she was staying with her aunt for a bit. She said she'd told her parents the truth as best as she could figure it, which she admitted might take a while because she hadn't been telling herself the truth either. She said she's going to call a counselor. She said, you don't need to reply, I won't come by again. She ended with, I didn't know what respect was until you asked me for it and I couldn't give it. When I unlocked my flat the hallway smelled like sautéed garlic and my roommate's socks. My cats met me like I'd been away for a year and not an hour. We put the chutney on toast because we didn't know what else to do with it and it turned out to be good in that way things are when they're made by someone who cares about jars. Later the constable called back to say they'd spoken to Alex and recorded a warning. She said he took it badly and then he took it better. She asked again if I felt safe. I said yes. I meant it more than I expected to. Before bed I slid the £10 under the chutney jar so I wouldn't forget to give it back if they ever let me pay for petrol I didn't actually buy. I muted my phone. I put the tin on top of the cupboard, out of reach of paws. When the building went quiet and the lift stopped grumbling I realized the feeling in my chest wasn't numbness anymore. It was space. It sounded like nothing. It felt like a room I could breathe in. Update 4. I woke up to the smell of toast and the sound of my roommate swearing softly at BBC Sport. Grey light, the good kind that makes everything look honest. My phone had a single new message from a username I didn't recognize. A video of the bakery window. You could see flour dust in the air like snow. Alex was on the pavement outside with his hood up and his phone out, doing that angle where you're still technically filming yourself but you make sure the person you're talking at is in the corner. He knocked on the glass with his knuckles until it made that hollow thunk sound that goes straight along your teeth. The manager I'd met by accident that day, Pink scrunchie, no patience, walked up and pushed the latch on the top of the door without opening it, like she was locking the conversation as well. He said something about getting his girl and she asked him not to call her that. Two customers turned around with their takeaway cups halfway to their mouths, then pretended they hadn't. He tried the handle. She shook her head once and held up a piece of laminated paper to the glass. We have a zero-tolerance policy on harassment. Do not wait for staff outside. He laughed like she'd written him a personal invitation and leaned his shoulder into the door. His foot slipped on flour left by a delivery, just enough to mess with his balance, not enough to be slapstick. He caught himself on the metal frame and said something too loud that I don't need to repeat. Someone off camera said, "That's enough, mate." He turned his head quickly like a bird. 2 minutes later a patrol car rolled up and the scrunchy manager's shoulders dropped a full inch. The video cut off when the officer started talking to him. My hands had gone cold while I watched it and I wasn't even there. At 11 the constable from before called and said she was updating the incident to a formal harassment notice. Not a criminal record, but black and white on a piece of paper so if he tried again it wouldn't be a misunderstanding. She said he'd come in to make a counter-complaint last night, said I'd threatened him at my door. Then she mentioned she'd already seen our building's footage and there was a beat of silence like the part of a song where you can hear the singer breathe. She said she'd explained to him that the video didn't support his version. She asked again if I felt safe. I said yes, and this time it felt like I brushed my teeth and not I am braver than I think. Ordinary. She said that's the point. A brown envelope arrived in the afternoon with my name on it in the exact handwriting she used on sticky notes inside my fridge, the ones that said things like use the spinach and stop stealing my oat milk, smiley face. The key I hadn't realized I hadn't got back slid into my palm with that disappointing little weight keys have on their own. There was a single line on a torn piece of paper, returning what's yours with, thanks and sorries I don't expect you to read. No name. No questions. It was the first thing she'd sent that didn't ask for anything back and it landed differently. I put the key next to the chutney where the 10 pounds was still keeping it company like a paper tent. In the evening my lecturer emailed my group to confirm our presentation slot. My stomach did that clean drop it does when a lift moves before your head is ready. I practiced into my phone camera with the cats pretending not to listen. My own voice in the playback used to make me flinch. It didn't. It sounded like me. On the way to campus the next morning I stopped at a zebra crossing for an old man with a tiny dog and the dog looked at me like it knew all my secrets and didn't mind any of them. The lecture theater smelled faintly of marker pens and yesterday. We went up. I did my bit. My hands did not shake. I said the technical words I've wrestled with for 2 years out loud where everyone could hear them and something inside me that used to brace didn't. When we finished, my partner squeezed my shoulder in a quick, practical way and our tutor said, "Clear, like always." Always. I nearly laughed. I was drinking terrible coffee from a vending machine that still pretends coins are common when a message pinged, "The bakery again." A photo this time of a new sign on their door, A4, blue tack crooked in the corners. It had a grainy still from the CCTV printed on it. You could see the outline of the hood and the angle of the jaw. Underneath, individuals who continue to breach this policy will be refused service and reported. It shouldn't have made me feel anything. It did. Not vindication. Just that same honest gray light. Heading home I took the long way and passed the charity shop where her nan once bought a vase shaped like a swan and scolded herself for it for weeks. The swan was in the window. I stood there and laughed quietly to myself and then went inside to tell the woman behind the till to please put it aside. For me. I don't need a swan. That was not the point. I paid £3.50 and carried it up the street the way you carry something that obviously wants to tip out of your hands. My phone buzzed again when I got to our building. A voicemail from a number I didn't save on purpose and a text from her aunt introducing herself like we'd met in a dream. The voicemail was short. "I changed my number," she said. "That's the last you'll get from me. I wanted you to know I told him not to use theirs anymore. He told me he'd been helping them. I told him no. I am embarrassed by how long I believed it." Her aunt's text said she had Nan and Granddad at hers for tea that night because the kettle's getting a workout and would I tell the constable if he turned up there. I said I would and then put my phone down in the bowl where my keys used to live. At 7 there was a knock I thought was my neighbor coming to complain about the smell of garlic. It was the building manager with one of those smile grimaces you do when you bring news no one wants. He was back earlier, he said. Not at our door. In the car park, idling. He'd taken a picture of my number plate and filmed the bike racks like the racks had done something to him. Security told him to jog on. He jogged, the manager said. He rolled his eyes at himself for saying jogged. I went upstairs and fed the cats and took the chutney down from the cupboard. The 10 pounds was still underneath like a stubborn secret. I put both in a tote bag and got the bus to her aunt's, because if I didn't do it now the money would live under the jar forever like a trapped leaf in resin. The house smelled like rosemary and clean floors. Her aunt had the same cardigan to shoulder ratio as her sister and the same eyes as none of them. Her nan met me at the door with a dish towel over one shoulder, victorious and a little bewildered, and tried to make me take a Tupperware of stew. I gave her the money. She laughed in that way where you're laughing at yourself and me and the whole daft line between us. She tucked the note into a cookbook and said, "For when you come for a proper lunch one day," and then immediately backtracked and said, "If you want, and I said nothing because I didn't need to. Her granddad was in the lounge with the news on, volume low. He saw me and put out his hand and then changed his mind and patted the arm of the chair instead, like I was a dog he wasn't sure was friendly yet. On the dining table behind him, neat as a letter, was a white envelope with a council logo. She tapped it with one finger and said, "We went to the solicitor this morning," as if she was telling me she'd finally got new tires. "No more keys in pockets that aren't ours," she said. It was the kind of sentence that feels simple and isn't. On my way out I passed him on the pavement. It was almost funny, like a bad sketch, the timing of it. No hood this time. Just him and his phone and that face like a mirror angled to catch a light that wasn't there. We both stopped. He did that grin that never reaches his eyes and said my name wrong twice, stretching the vowels like gum until they snapped. I said nothing. His mouth twitched like he thought he'd got me, and then he looked over my shoulder and saw her aunt's front door opening behind me, and he recalculated. He said, "Big man now," in a voice I've heard him use on other people when he wanted them small. I didn't answer. The constable's car turned into the road, casual, almost like it didn't belong to this moment. He saw it, and for the first time since all of this started I watched the show fall off his face without him meaning it to. He went gray around the mouth like milk left too long in a cup. He didn't run. He did that thing cowards do where they pretend they were just leaving anyway. He swung his phone up and filmed the sky. Tonight my room is quiet in a way that doesn't ask me to notice it. The swan is on the bookshelf looking ridiculous. The chutney jar is half empty. The key on the bowl makes a different noise than it did before, more deliberate. I lay on my bed and listen to the building settling, that deep creak that makes you think of ships, and for the first time since the porch and the names I didn't have to argue with a part of my brain that tells me I imagine being treated well. I didn't. I asked for it. And it turns out the world doesn't crack open when you refuse to be treated badly. It moves over to make room. That feels like the craziest part of all of this and also the simplest. Tomorrow, presentation number 2. I'm going to say my own name first. Then the rest.